Thank you, Kate.
And now new questions surrounding 3 schoolgirls from the UK who boarded a flight to Turkey in what's believed to be a common flight path towards ISIS in Syria. These images are from Gatwick Airport just outside London. The girls, 2 of whom are 15, the other 16, all attend the same school in East London. But apparently, no one at the airport questioned why the 3 young girls were traveling without any adult supervision to Turkey and possibly Syria. And earlier today, the parents of these young girls sent out pleas on social media for them to come home, and Prime Minister David Cameron also voiced his concern.
Well, it is deeply concerning, and obviously our authorities will do everything we can to help these girls, but it does make a broader point, which is the fight against Islamist extremist terror is not just one that we can wage by the police and border control. It needs every school, every university, every college, every community to recognize they have a role to play. We all have a role to play in stopping people from having their minds poisoned by this appalling death cult.
And with me now, terrorism analyst and Fox News contributor Lisa Daftari. Lisa, thanks so much for coming in tonight.
Pleasure. First,
let's talk about these 3 girls. How did these authorities actually find out that they were gone and missing and on their way to Turkey and probably ultimately Syria?
Their parents actually alerted authorities when they realized that they said they were going to school and they actually didn't come home, and that's where they were going. They're still believed to be in Turkey and have not yet crossed over into ISIS territory, into Syria, and authorities are obviously they know that time is of the essence because it's much easier to find them in Turkey rather than wait until they are in Syria.
How is it that these young women who aren't even legal adults yet are able to get on an airplane flight at a time when we're watching ISIS closely and even get to Turkey without going unnoticed, essentially?
Right, absolutely. And this is something that obviously the ISIS is masterful at doing, recruiting, radicalizing, luring these young women, which is now their target group, young women from the West, to go over there, to become ISIS brides, to become ISIS girlfriends, to either be sold for a profit or to actually become part of this growing caliphate. They want ISIS wives, husbands, babies, families. They want to grow the caliphate.
I have seen that there are at least 50 women from the UK who have gone to be wives of ISIS fighters. I've also seen that 1 in 6 the recruits that ISIS is taking are women. I mean, this is a huge number, but what is the actual reality for these women once they get over? Because as you said, ISIS puts up this really appealing way of living in Syria, but in reality, it's much different.
Right, so they promise this Islamic utopia. They go over there and they realize Sharia law reality. And what happens is it's very difficult once they are there to come back because they're an asset for ISIS. Again, not only are they wives and serve as sex slaves or what have you, but now they have Western passports in their possession. So it's very difficult once they get there. And we see both scenarios play out. Some act as a platform then, becoming a propaganda tool and asking other women to come serve your religion, come join ISIS, and others who are absolutely regretful.
Yeah, well, I want to switch gears a little bit here. We've talked about women and other fighters going to Syria, but now the concern is that Syrian refugees actually being invited to the United States to seek asylum. What can you tell us about that?
Right, this is an absolute mistake. We've already seen the fallout from letting these refugees come, whether it's in Europe or right here in the United States in the aftermath of 9/11 or the Boston Marathon bombing. Look, we are a nation, we have heart, we want to let these refugees in. A lot of them are well-intentioned, a lot of them are religious minorities, they're Christians. We want to let them in. But at what cost? When we do not have the proper apparatus to vet these individuals, then who are we to let them in and then take a risk at that? The irony in all of this is that the reason this administration did not get involved in the Syrian civil war is that we said we could not figure out who the good guys and the bad guys were. Now, are we going to take a chance and let those bad guys in with the good guys here in this country?
Well, what is that? That's my question, is what is the vetting process that they actually have set up? I know that there's been a lot of criticism of the amount of students we've let in from Saudi Arabia because they overstay their visas, and there's thousands of students now lost in the system who we haven't followed up on. And now we're seeing this refugee crisis, which is 4 million people, and it doesn't seem like they can even handle that large of a number, unfortunately.
No, we cannot, and we don't have the apparatus on the ground in Syria in terms of getting intel. Again, remember the red line and how we drew it and how we couldn't get involved because we just did not have the proper intel. And again, we've already seen the fallout from letting these types of individuals in. We have to take a step back and say, as much as we want to be the nation that provides haven for these unfortunate cases, at the same time, we prioritize national security. And that's the bottom line.
Absolutely. National security for the United States comes first. Lisa, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it.